You're not handing this job over to Shedeur Sanders. It certainly doesn't sound like. What's this competition looking like?
Well, I don't think you can. I don't think there's enough of a sample size recently with any of our candidates to be our starting quarterback, be it Dylan, Deshaun, or Shedeur, that you can say that's our starter. You just can't. There were times in the back half of the year where you said, boy, Shedeur Sanders looks like a starting NFL quarterback. And you can go as far back just a year ago or maybe 2 years ago where you said, boy, there's signs that Deshaun Watson is really playing at elite level.
Especially against you guys, the Ravens, right?
In 23. And then Dylan, who did it at 3 different colleges, Central Florida, Oklahoma, and Oregon at elite level. I mean, there's a lot to work with there.
If I'm predicting, I would want Shedeur because I like him more than I like Deshaun Watson, clearly. Okay? But I got to go based on talent, based on play. I think Deshaun might end up being the guy who ends up being number one.
If Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback for the Browns or any team, it's an indictment of everybody involved in the situation. For all the reasons you mentioned, on the field and off the field. The guy is not good enough to be putting up with all this stuff. Like there's really no level of good enough that I think you should be able to have to allow you to still be playing football. But this dude is not good at football.
The Cleveland Browns, a franchise that has been starving, absolutely starving for a real answer at quarterback since 1999. And now they have a brand new head coach, a messy 3-man quarterback room, and a fan base that desperately wants someone to just say the words, Shedeur Sanders is our guy. But Todd Monken isn't saying that. And honestly, that tells you everything.
Your current quarterback situation, you got one of the more intriguing ones in football. You got Deshaun Watson, who hasn't been on the field a lot at all. You got Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel, who are young but got potential, right? So how do you kind of view your, what you're coaching here and what you're about to get into?
Well, it's interesting. When you watch the back half of the year and you look at Shedeur, what you do see is a little bit more mobility than I thought.
Right.
He has a knack for getting out of trouble.
Yeah.
He certainly has playmaking ability. That you do see. I do think there's something there to work with.
Yeah.
I wasn't here during the year, so to be able to drill down at preparation or what they were doing offensively with him. And also, you got to be able to surround your quarterback with weapons.
Todd Monken walked into Berea as the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns with one of the most complicated quarterback rooms in modern NFL history. You've got Deshaun Watson, a guy who was once considered a franchise-altering talent but hasn't played consistent, healthy football in years. You've got Dylan Gabriel, a guy who produced at 3 different college programs and showed real flashes of capability. And then you've got Shedeur Sanders, a second-generation football royalty, a guy with swagger, pedigree, and a highlight reel that made NFL scouts drool coming out of Colorado. And Monken, he's looking at all 3 of them and saying, nobody has earned this yet. That's not disrespect, that's actually smart coaching. Think about what Monken is doing here. He's a first-time NFL head coach. He was just fired as offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens. He left a position at the University of Georgia, one of the most prestigious programs in college football, specifically to come back to the NFL for one more shot at getting a head coaching job. This man has been grinding for this moment for decades. You think he's going to walk in on day one and hand the most important position on the field to a rookie with 8 starts under his belt just because the fan base wants him to? Absolutely not. What Monken saw in Shedeur during the back half of last season is genuinely interesting. He wasn't even coaching the Browns when Shedeur was playing. He was still in Baltimore, but he watched the tape, he studied it, and what he found was something he didn't fully expect. The mobility surprised him, the ability to extend plays, to escape pressure, to find something when the pocket collapsed. That wasn't necessarily what everyone was hyping about Shedeur coming into the league. People talked about his arm, his football IQ, his processing speed, but Monken noticed the legs. He noticed the instincts. He noticed the playmaking. And here's the thing about Todd Monken that you have to understand to really grasp why this situation is so fascinating. This is a man who spent years working with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, arguably the most uniquely gifted quarterback in the history of the position. And the single biggest lesson Monken says he took away from that experience.
I would just say that one size doesn't fit all. There's not one system that fits any given quarterback, and it's your job to make it fit for the quarterback that you have. That's your job. You can't just say, well, he doesn't fit our system, well then you've got a shitty system.
Read that again. This is a head coach who is philosophically committed to building around his quarterback, not forcing his quarterback into a box. That is enormous for Shedeur Sanders, because if Monken truly believes that, then whoever wins this competition isn't just going to be plugged into a pre-existing system. The system is going to be tailored to them, built for them, designed to maximize their specific strengths. And if that's the case, doesn't that actually favor Shedeur? The guy with the quick release, the processing ability, the mobility, the fearlessness? You could build something really dynamic around those traits. The question is whether Monken believes the upside is real enough to commit to it. Right now, he's not committing to anything, and here's why that's the right call.
Shedeur Sanders is the closest thing we've got to Tim Tebow in the NFL, and the fact that there's so much popularity, there's so much hoopla about him that you just cannot sit this dude on the bench unless you have somebody who is a verifiable, better starting level quarterback.
8 starts. That's what Shedeur Sanders has in the NFL. 8 starts. The Browns fan base is ready to crown him, ready to hand him the keys to the city, ready to finally believe again after 2.5 decades of quarterback despair. And emotionally, that makes complete sense. You've been through Tim Couch, through Derek Anderson, through Brandon Whedon, through Johnny Manziel, through Colt McCoy, through Baker Mayfield getting traded, through the Deshaun Watson catastrophe that cost the franchise the earth and produced almost nothing. Of course, you're ready to latch on to something that feels like hope. But 8 starts is not a body of work. 8 starts is a sample. It's a preview. It's a trailer, not the movie. Monken knows this, and he knows something else too. Naming a starter too early can actually hurt the player you're trying to protect. If you walk into OTAs and say, Shedeur Sanders is our QB1, competition is closed, what does that do to his development? It removes urgency. It removes competitive fire. It potentially breeds complacency in a young player who is still learning what it takes to be an NFL starter on a week-to-week basis. Monken used a classroom analogy in one of his press sessions that actually hit different when you sit with it. He talked about how you can't walk into an exam room and give every student a grade before they've even sat down and picked up a pencil. You'd be making judgments based on appearance, on preconceptions, on reputation, not on actual performance. And that's not how great coaches operate. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the horsehead in the office, if you will. Because yes, there's a whole Shedeur Sanders vibe happening already between player and coach that suggests this relationship has real potential. Monken's birthday falls on February 5th, and on that exact date, a package arrived. Not from his wife, not from a family member, from Shedeur Sanders, a porcelain horsehead. The man sent his new head coach a decorative horsehead as a birthday gift because, as Shedeur explained, he just really liked it and got one for himself too. Monken put it right between the Cleveland helmets in his office, front and center, waiting for Shedeur to see it when he comes in.
That is a little weird.
That is weird. Send me a horse head. Man, it's great.
You say horse head, and I'm thinking
The Godfather.
It's actually, it really wasn't a bloody horse head.
It
It was actually like a horse. I put it between all the Cleveland helmets and put it up there for him to see when he comes in the office. He's come in about 3 times, and we've had a chance to talk a little bit.
That's not nothing. That's chemistry being built in real time. That's a young quarterback who was engaged, who was thinking about his new head coach, who was making personal gestures. And that's a coach who reciprocated by displaying the gift proudly in his workspace. That dynamic matters. Culture is built in the off-season. Trust is built in the small moments. But chemistry doesn't win games. Execution does. And Monken has made it crystal clear. You earn your spot through the work. What about Deshaun Watson in all of this? Because you can't talk about the Browns' quarterback room without addressing the contract situation that is still hanging over this franchise like a storm cloud. Watson has been paid an astronomical amount of money. He played one of his best games in recent memory against Baltimore in 2023, won the game, and then got hurt again. His injury history has become the defining story of his time in Cleveland, and Monken is smart enough to acknowledge the elite talent that exists there, while also being realistic about what the future looks like. There is a version of this where Watson comes into training camp healthy, looks like his old self, and legitimately challenges for the starting spot. Monken hasn't closed that door. That's either genuine open-mindedness or brilliant roster management to keep Watson motivated. Maybe it's both. But most people watching this situation closely believe that if Shedeur Sanders stays healthy, stays sharp, and continues to develop through the spring and summer, he's going to be the Week 1 starter. The analysts around the league seem to agree on this. The sentiment coming out of Indianapolis during Combine Week was consistent. Shedeur is the likely starter barring injury or a dramatic shift in circumstances, but likely isn't certain. Not yet. Here's what the 2026 Browns season could actually look like if Monken gets this quarterback decision right. The schedule is soft enough that this team can be competitive. Monken himself pointed to the back half of last year's season as proof of concept. A 3-win team that lost to the Bills by a field goal, beat the Steelers at home, and went on the road to knock off the Bengals.
What if those were the 3 games to start the season?
Yeah.
What if they'd have just lost the Bills by 3 like we did?
Right.
Whatever it was, or a field goal. And then you win the next 2, and then you're 2-0 in the division. Momentum's a powerful thing, right? And belief.
That's not delusion. That's vision. That's a coach who looks at the same roster that everyone else dismissed and sees a foundation, sees potential, sees a team that was closer to relevance than the final standing suggested. And with Myles Garrett on defense, one of the greatest pass rushers the game has ever seen, there is a legitimate argument that the Browns are not as far from competitive football as people think. The quarterback just has to be right. This is the challenge Todd Monken has signed up for. No head coaching experience, a fan base scarred by decades of heartbreak, a quarterback room full of question marks, and a city that is absolutely desperate to believe in something again. He's walking into the fire. He knows it. And instead of flinching, he's running a true competition, building real relationships, staying open to every option, and refusing to hand anything to anyone before they've earned it. Shedeur Sanders wants this. You can feel it in the birthday gift. You can feel it in the 3 visits to the coaching offices. You can feel it in the way Monken describes watching his tape, with genuine excitement, genuine curiosity, genuine belief that there is something real there to work with. But belief is not a depth chart. Hope is not a starting lineup. Shedeur Sanders has to go out there and take this job. And based on everything Monken has said and done since taking over in Cleveland, that's exactly what he's going to make him do. The competition is real. The stakes are enormous, and the entire NFL is watching.